He was curled up in a torn cardboard box, skin clinging to his bones, eyes half closed like he was waiting for the end. People walked by, nobody cared. But then a tiny voice said, "Mommy, stop the car," and everything changed. Most people would have looked the other way. It's just a stray dog, right? Sick, filthy, probably dangerous, not worth the risk. But what if I told you this dog wasn't just about to die? He was about to change a life, or maybe save one? This story isn't just about an abandoned animal. It's about the power of innocence, of kindness, and of one little girl who believed that no life, no matter how broken, was beyond saving. They say dogs are man's best friend, loyal, loving, trusting. But what happens when humans break that trust again and again, until there's nothing left? This is the story of a dog whose world had completely collapsed, and the little girl who brought him back from the edge. His name, well, he didn't have one. Not when this story began. He didn't even remember if he'd ever had one. All he knew was pain and cold, and the slow, grinding ache of hunger that never went away. He'd been on the streets for months, maybe longer. His fur, what was left of it, was matted with dirt and grime. His ribs stuck out like old tree roots. His tail didn't wag. His eyes, those were the hardest to look at. They didn't hold fear anymore, just emptiness. Every day was the same. He'd wander the back alleys of the city, hoping, praying for scraps. He searched through trash bins, sniffed the ground outside restaurants. Once in a while, someone would toss a crust of bread or a half-eaten burger toward him. Most of the time, they'd just shoot him away. Kids laughed at him. Grown-ups ignored him. Cars honked if he got too close. Dogs barked at him from behind fences. And when night came, he'd curl up under the awning of an abandoned building, trembling in the cold, listening to the sounds of the city like a distant war. Rain was the worst, cold rain, the kind that cuts through fur and skin like needles. One night, the storm had gotten so bad, he'd taken shelter in a bus stop. But even there, someone kicked him, told him to go die somewhere else. Go die somewhere else. That's how the world saw him, not as a soul, not as a creature who once ran across fields and licked someone's face and wagged his tail so hard it made his whole body shake. No, to the world, he was trash, something to be thrown away, forgotten. And slowly, he started to believe it. His legs ached when he walked. His eyes barely stayed open. Hunger clawed at his belly, like it was eating him from the inside out. He didn't bark anymore. He didn't cry. He didn't fight. What was the point? The part that breaks your heart the most. He used to have a home. He wasn't born on the street. He remembered warm hands, a couch, a name he couldn't recall now, but he remembered how it sounded. Happy, like laughter. He remembered chasing a ball, licking peanut butter off a spoon, sleeping with his head in someone's lap. But then something changed. One day, the car ride didn't take him to the park. It took him far away. They opened the door, told him to get out. He did, wagging his tail, thinking maybe it was a game. But then the car sped off, and it never came back. He waited, for hours, for days, but they never returned. Weeks passed, then months, and hope faded. The thing is, dogs don't hate, not even when they're abandoned, beaten, starved. They don't carry anger the way we do, but they do feel pain, deep, raw, aching pain. And this dog, he had reached the very end of what his heart could take. That morning was colder than usual. He hadn't eaten in 3 days. The trash bins had already been emptied. His legs barely carried him to the same cardboard box he'd curled into the night before. He lay down slowly, bones pressing against the pavement. His body shivered once, then went still. And for the first time, he stopped waiting. He stopped hoping. He closed his eyes. That's when a voice broke through. "Mommy, stop the car." It was high-pitched, urgent, a little girl's voice. He didn't open his eyes. He didn't care. "Mommy, please. There's a dog. Right there. He's not moving." The dog didn't move. He couldn't. The car door opened. Feet ran across the pavement. "Don't go near him," the mother shouted. "He could be dangerous." But the girl had already reached him. She crouched down. Small fingers brushed over his matted fur. "Mommy," shaking. He flinched slightly. Just a twitch. But it was enough. "He's alive. Mommy, he's alive." The mother sighed, still a few feet away. "Sweetheart, we can't bring home every stray dog. He might have fleas. Or worse." But the girl didn't listen. She looked into his eyes, those tired, hollow eyes, and saw something no one else had seen. Not filth, not danger. She saw someone who had been broken, someone who needed help. She didn't scream. She didn't pull away. She whispered, "It's okay, boy. I'm not gonna hurt you." And for some reason, those words mattered, because even in the middle of all that pain, that dog felt something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. Warmth. The little girl knelt beside the dog, her tiny hands trembling slightly as she reached out again. This time, she touched his side, softly, like she was afraid he might break. And honestly, he might have. She looked up at her mom. He's cold. The mother stood a few feet back, arms crossed, her face tight with concern. Sweetheart, come here. You don't know where he's been, but he's alone, the girl whispered. He's giving up. There was something in her voice, something raw and pleading, that made her mother pause. For a moment, the city noise seemed to quiet. The wind blew through the alley, tugging at the girl's coat and making the old cardboard box rustle beside her. And then the dog opened his eyes, just a sliver, just enough to see her. His vision was blurry, his body screamed with pain, but he saw her, this small human with wide, tear-filled eyes and a voice that sounded like sunlight, and something in him stirred. It wasn't a bark or a whine, just a flicker, a breath, a whisper of something long buried, the will to live. The girl turned back to her mom. We can't leave him, please. Just let me help him. The mother hesitated. She glanced at the dog. He didn't look like a threat. He didn't look like anything really. Just a shadow of what he once was. He might be sick, the mother said, but her voice had softened. He might have something wrong with him. I don't care, the girl said. He's still breathing. There was a long silence. Then the mom reached into the backseat of their car and pulled out an old blanket. She approached cautiously, her steps slow, deliberate. When she got close, the dog tried to lift his head but failed. His body was too weak. It's okay, the mother murmured. We're not going to hurt you. She placed the blanket gently over him. The girl smiled through her tears. Can we take him home? She asked. The mother sighed. We'll take him to the vet first. Then we'll see. The drive was quiet. The girl sat in the back seat, cradling the dog's head in her lap. He was barely conscious, but he felt warmth again for the first time in weeks. He could smell something, faint, sweet, familiar. A scent like shampoo and bubblegum, like kindness. The vet clinic was just 10 minutes away, but it felt like forever. The receptionist gave them a look the moment they walked in, a look that said, "What are you doing bringing that thing in here?" But the mother held her head high. He needs help. The vet, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, stepped out of the back room. When he saw the dog, he stopped. I'll be honest, he said, kneeling to inspect the frail body wrapped in blankets. This one's not doing good. The girl's face fell. Is he gonna die? The vet didn't answer right away. He checked the dog's heart, his breathing, lifted his lip to look at his gums. He's malnourished, severely dehydrated. He's got ticks, and maybe mange. I'd be surprised if he's eaten anything real in weeks. He stood up, brushing his hands on his scrubs. But if you're willing to give him a chance, I'll do what I can. That was all the girl needed to hear. Yes, she said firmly. We'll give him a chance. The next few hours were a blur. The dog was given fluids, medication, a warm bath. He didn't resist. He didn't even flinch when they removed ticks or cleaned his wounds. He just lay there, eyes half open, breathing slow. He was fading. Everyone knew it, but the girl came to visit every day. She brought him scraps of cooked chicken and whispered to him while he lay in the recovery room. She told him stories about her school, about how she didn't have many friends, about her dad, who worked overseas, about her dreams of becoming a vet when she grew up. She talked and talked and talked, and the dog listened. Maybe it was her voice, or the smell of her, or the fact that, for once, someone saw him not as a burden, but as a being. Each day, he blinked a little more, lifted his head, tried to sit up. He was still so weak, but something had changed, something big. The staff started calling him Buddy. It was the girl's idea. He's my buddy, she said, and I'm his. But not everyone thought it was a good idea. One evening, a family friend came over and saw the dog through the clinic window. You're not really planning to keep that thing, are you? She said to the girl's mom. You don't know where it came from. Could have been abused. Could be dangerous. The mother stayed quiet. The girl, standing nearby, clenched her fists. He's not dangerous, she said. He's just hurt. But the woman shook her head. You're letting your daughter get too attached. That dog might not even make it. The word stung. Later that night, the girl sat beside Buddy's kennel and cried. Not loud, not sobbing, just soft tears that ran down her cheeks as she stroked his paw through the bars. And Buddy, barely able to move, licked her fingers. That one small movement said everything. The days passed slowly. For every small step forward, there seemed to be a setback waiting in the shadows. Buddy's appetite would return one day, only for him to vomit the next. His legs trembled when he tried to stand, and sometimes he collapsed after only a few steps. The girl never missed a visit. She'd come after school, drop her bag at the door, and sit beside him, reading stories, talking about her day. or just holding his paw while the sun dipped behind the trees outside the clinic window. But not everyone was patient. Her mother began to worry. The bills were stacking up: vet costs, special food, medications. The clinic was generous, but even generosity has its limits. "I don't know how much longer we can keep this up," her mom whispered one evening, as the girl tucked Buddy's blanket tighter around him. The girl looked up, her voice steady but soft. "What if someone gave up on me?" That question lingered in the room, like a cold draft. The mother had no answer. Around town, word had started to spread about the stray dog and the little girl who refused to let him die. Some people admired her, others weren't so kind. "Dogs like that don't change," said a man at the grocery store. "You can feed him and clean him up, but they're still strays." "Maybe it would have been kinder to put him down," a neighbor muttered when they walked past the vet clinic. The girl heard the whispers. She understood what they meant, but when she looked into Buddy's eyes that used to be so dim, but now shimmered with the tiniest flicker of light, she knew they were wrong. He was still in there, buried under fear, hunger, and pain. The real Buddy was clawing his way back. Then, one night, everything changed. It was raining hard, one of those wild spring storms that soaks the ground in minutes. The wind howled, lightning split the sky, and thunder made the walls tremble. At the clinic, the lights flickered. Buddy had been doing better that week. He'd even managed to stand and walk a few steps toward the girl the day before. But that night, he stopped breathing. The vet was already gone. The night tech panicked and called the emergency contact. It was the girl's mother. When they arrived, the girl ran into the clinic soaked and shivering, her eyes wide with terror. "Where is he?" she cried. The tech pointed to the recovery room. He collapsed. She didn't wait. She rushed inside and dropped to her knees beside him. He was still breathing, but barely. His ribs moved with shallow, ragged gulps. His body was stiff and cold. "Buddy," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Please don't go. Not now." She placed her hand on his chest. She could feel the heartbeat, but it was fading. The mother watched from the door, unsure whether to pull her daughter away or let her stay. Then, just as the girl bent forward, resting her forehead against his, she whispered, "You can't leave yet. You promised me you'd try." And something happened. It wasn't sudden or dramatic. No lightning bolt or gasp of air. Just a tiny twitch of his tail, the smallest response. But it was enough. They stayed with him all night, and by morning, he was still alive. Weaker than ever, hanging by a thread, but alive. The vet arrived just before sunrise, surprised to see Buddy still breathing. "I don't know how he made it through," he said, scratching his head. But the girl knew, because sometimes the will to live isn't powered by medicine or machines. Sometimes it's powered by love. But love alone wouldn't be enough to keep him going. There was still a bigger problem. The landlord at their apartment complex had heard about the dog, and when he saw them bringing Buddy home for weekend care during his recovery, he sent a warning. "No pets allowed, not even strays." The girl's mother pleaded, "It's temporary. He's healing. He won't bother anyone." But rules were rules. "If I see that dog here again, you're out." The girl overheard the conversation, and for the first time since finding Buddy, her hopes started to crack. "What are we going to do?" she asked her mom that night. The mother looked tired, more tired than the girl had ever seen her. "I don't know," she said, "but we'll think of something." They tried everything. They asked family friends if they could foster Buddy. Everyone said no. "He's too sick. We don't have space. It's too much responsibility." The clinic could only keep him for so long, and Buddy still needed daily care. The vet looked uncomfortable when he pulled them aside. "We have to make a decision soon," he said. "If no one can take him in." He didn't finish the sentence, but the girl understood. That night, she cried herself to sleep, holding one of Buddy's old blankets. She had fought so hard for him, begged, loved, waited, and now, it seemed like she was about to lose him anyway. Not because he was too sick, but because the world didn't care enough. The next few days were quiet, too quiet. The girl still visited the clinic after school, but her smile was weaker. Her stories to Buddy grew shorter. She stopped reading out loud. Some days, she just sat beside him in silence, stroking his fur as tears pooled in her eyes. Even Buddy seemed to feel it. He no longer lifted his head when she walked in. His tail barely moved. The little spark that had flickered inside him was now dangerously close to burning out. And then, the worst moment came. The vet approached them one evening, papers in hand. His eyes, usually kind, were heavy with sadness. "I know you've tried everything," he said gently, "and you should be proud of how far he's come. But we're running out of options. We can't keep him here much longer, and if we can't find a home for him, we may need to consider humane euthanasia." The words hit like bricks. The girl didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just sat there, staring at the floor, her fingers tightening around Buddy's blanket like she was trying to hold onto him through it. The vet placed the papers on the counter. "I'm giving it 3 more days," he said quietly. "If there's no one by then, we have to let him go." 3 days. 72 hours. That was all the time Buddy had left. The girl barely spoke on the ride home. Her mother reached out to hold her hand, but the girl pulled away, curling into the door with her face against the window. She stared at the rain, blinking back the tears. That night, while her mother slept, the girl got out of bed. She pulled on her raincoat, grabbed her flashlight, and tiptoed out the door. She walked to the clinic. It wasn't far, just a few blocks, and when she reached it, she sat down outside, right next to the wall where Buddy used to sit when he was still a stray, sick, cold, and alone. She sat there for hours. Maybe she was waiting for a sign. Maybe she was trying to understand what it felt like to be him, to feel forgotten, to wonder if anyone in the world would ever care enough to fight for you. And in that moment, something inside her shifted. She wiped her eyes. She stood up, and she knew what she had to do. The next morning, she got to work. She borrowed her mother's phone and made a short video of Buddy, showing his journey, his injuries, and his slow, painful recovery. She recorded herself too. "My name is Emma," she said into the camera, her voice small but clear. "This is my friend Buddy. He was left to die. I found him. I stayed with him. He's not perfect, but he wants to live." She posted the video everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even neighborhood forums. She wrote a message beneath it: "Buddy only has 3 days left. He needs a home. Not forever, just for now. Please, help me save my best friend." And then she waited. The first 24 hours passed with no response. Then, a single comment appeared on the video: "I'm not in your area, but I shared this. I hope he finds someone." Then another: "My kid saw this and cried. We can't take him, but we're rooting for you." Then, something incredible happened. A local news reporter, someone who followed the neighborhood page, reached out. He asked if he could do a short piece on Emma and Buddy's story. The next morning, the two of them stood outside the clinic, nervous but hopeful. As the camera crew set up, Emma spoke from the heart. She didn't memorize lines or practice. She just told the truth. She talked about the first time she saw him, how broken he was, how everyone said to give up, how she couldn't, and how now someone else needed to believe in him too. The segment aired that evening. By the next morning, the clinic's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Over 50 people called asking about Buddy. Some wanted to adopt him, some offered to foster, others sent donations to help cover his care. One woman even drove 6 hours from out of state, hoping she could meet him and take him home. The vet stood in awe, flipping through pages of messages. "I've never seen anything like this," he said. Emma's mother just smiled. "I have," she whispered, watching her daughter wrap her arms around Buddy. "I see it every day." And just like that, everything changed. The man who'd once said Buddy wouldn't make it now knelt beside him with tears in his eyes. The clinic that was days away from putting him down now had a special corner for him, decorated with cards and drawings from local school kids. And the landlord, he made an exception. "I saw the news," he said, looking sheepish. "You can keep him. Just keep him quiet." Emma laughed. "He barely even barks." The man cracked a smile. "Then we're good." The miracle hadn't come from a vet, or a rescue group, or a donation. It came from a little girl who refused to let go, who sat in the rain outside a clinic just to understand what it felt like to be forgotten, and who turned her pain into power. Buddy was safe now, but healing was a slow road. Just because the threat of being put down was gone didn't mean everything was suddenly perfect. His body was still weak. His legs trembled when he walked. Loud noises still made him flinch, and though his tail wagged more often now, his eyes carried a tiredness you only see in someone who's seen too much pain. But every day, he tried, and every day, Emma was there. She brought him toys, sometimes squeaky ones that startled him at first, but eventually made him curious. She brought him blankets that smelled like home, snacks she snuck from her backpack, and most importantly, patience. She didn't ask him to run. She didn't expect him to jump. She just let him be, and that was everything. One morning, the vet noticed something. Buddy was waiting by the door, not cowering in the corner, not curled in a blanket, but standing, wobbly yes, but standing, at the glass door, tail twitching, looking out into the morning light. It was the first time he'd done that, and when Emma walked through that door minutes later, he didn't wait for her to kneel down. He took 2 steps forward, then 3, then collapsed right into her arms. The whole room went quiet. The tech behind the desk dropped her pen. The receptionist gasped. "And Emma," she whispered through tears, "you came to me." From that moment on, Buddy changed. He still had bad days. Sometimes he'd freeze at sudden movements. Sometimes he'd yelp in his sleep, kicking at invisible enemies in dreams that hadn't yet faded. But now he had a light, a purpose, a person, and with every day that passed, his spirit got stronger. He started playing, first with softballs, then tug toys. Eventually, he even chased after a tennis ball, just once, but enough to make the vet cheer so loudly that Buddy spun in confusion. He learned commands. He learned to sit, then stay, then come. He learned trust. Emma took him on walks now, not too far, not too fast, but long enough to feel the wind in his fur and the sun on his back. Kids from school started joining her, bringing treats and little notes for Buddy. He became something of a local hero, the town's miracle dog. Even the news station did a follow-up segment, showing his progress. People watched from all over, and comments flooded in. This is why we need more kindness in the world. Bless that little girl for not giving up. I cried watching this. Thank you, Emma. But Emma didn't do it for praise. She didn't care about being on TV. She cared about one thing, making sure Buddy never felt unloved again. And then, something unexpected happened. Emma's mother got a letter. It was from a woman named Grace, who lived 2 towns over. She had seen the news and read every article. She wanted to help, not with money, not with attention, but with something real. She had a small animal sanctuary on her property, lots of space, other dogs, a peaceful place with trees and sunshine. I saw the bond between your daughter and Buddy, the letter read, and I don't want to take that away. But if you ever need a second home for him, a weekend escape, or even a permanent place if things get tough, my door is open. Emma's mother read the letter aloud, and for the first time in weeks, Emma smiled not with relief, but with peace. Buddy's never going anywhere, she said, hugging him tight. But it's nice to know someone else cares too. As weeks turned into months, Buddy didn't just survive, he bloomed. His coat, once dull and patchy, was now soft and golden. His ribs no longer jutted out like warning signs. His steps were no longer hesitant. He even started barking again, not in fear, but in joy, in excitement, in life. Emma called it his voice. He's finally learning to speak again, she'd say. But it wasn't just his bark that changed. It was the way he watched her. There was a deep understanding in his eyes now, almost like he knew what she'd done for him, like he remembered every second of cold, every night of hunger, every bark for help that went unanswered. Until he followed her from room to room, waited by the door when she left, slept beside her bed every night, and every time she looked at him, she whispered the same thing, "You're safe now." One evening, Emma and her mom were sitting on the porch, Buddy curled up at her feet. The air was crisp, the sky painted with fading orange and purple hues. Emma's mom asked softly, "Why do you think he picked that spot, that alley?" Emma looked at Buddy, then back at her mom. "I don't think he picked it," she said. "I think he gave up there." Her mother nodded, her eyes glistening. "And then you showed up," she whispered. "No," Emma replied, reaching down to scratch behind Buddy's ear. "He showed up for me." What most people didn't know was that Emma had been going through her own kind of sadness before she found Buddy. Her dad had left a year ago, quietly, without warning, just gone. She hadn't talked about it much, not to her teachers, not even to her mom. But every night after that, something inside her felt empty. And when she saw Buddy that day in the alley, starving, broken, barely breathing, she recognized the look in his eyes, because she had seen it in the mirror. He was hurting the way she was hurting, and saving him had started saving her. At school, her friends noticed a change. Emma used to be quiet, sometimes withdrawn. Now she smiled more, spoke more, laughed again. And when anyone asked her what happened, she didn't say therapy. She didn't say time. She just said, "Buddy." But just when everything seemed perfect, life threw another test. One morning, Buddy wouldn't get up. At first, Emma thought he was just tired. Then she noticed the limp, then the whimper when he tried to stand. Panic surged in her chest. She and her mom rushed him to the vet. The vet examined him, ran tests, and then said something no one was ready for. "He's got early signs of arthritis. It's manageable, but it'll be a lifelong condition." Emma blinked, trying to understand. "But he's okay, right?" The vet smiled gently. "He's okay. He just needs a little extra care." And just like that, Emma nodded. "Then that's what we'll give him." From that day forward, Emma took her job even more seriously. She researched everything about arthritis in dogs, changed his food, adjusted their walks, got him a soft orthopedic bed, and a new harness that didn't put pressure on his joints. And on the days his legs hurt too much, she carried him, even if he was twice her size, even if her arms shook. She carried him, because when he couldn't walk, she'd be his legs, just like he'd been her heart. Winter came earlier than usual that year. The mornings were sharp with frost, the grass stiff and silver with ice. Emma made sure Buddy wore his little jacket now, the one with the fuzzy lining and reflective trim. He hated it at first, but she'd laugh and say, "Tough luck, mister. You're somebody's baby now." And just like that, he'd huff and lie down, resigned but never upset, never distant, always close. One afternoon, during a rare December sunbreak, Emma took Buddy to their favorite spot by the old lake trail. It wasn't far, just a short walk from their neighborhood, but it felt like another world, quiet, peaceful, a place only they knew. Buddy perked up when they arrived. His steps, though careful, carried that spark of youth again. Emma smiled, tossing his ball gently. For a while, everything felt perfect, but then something shifted. A sharp cry echoed from deeper in the woods. Buddy froze. Emma looked up. It sounded like a small animal, hurt, maybe trapped. "Stay, Bud," she said, stepping a few feet toward the sound. But Buddy didn't stay. His instincts kicked in. He bolted toward the sound, disappearing behind a bend in the trees. "Buddy!" Emma screamed, chasing after him. Her feet slipped on the frozen ground, branches scraping her coat. When she finally caught up, her heart nearly stopped. Buddy was standing at the edge of a shallow ditch, barking frantically. Down below, tangled in a pile of brambles, was a stray kitten, tiny, trembling, and mewing in panic. Buddy barked again, pacing. He didn't go down. His legs wouldn't let him, but he wouldn't leave either. Emma climbed down, carefully unwrapped the kitten, and tucked it into her coat. When she climbed back up, Buddy nuzzled the kitten gently with his nose, as if to say, "You're safe now." Emma looked at him in awe. "You remember," she whispered. "You remember what it's like." They took the kitten home, and just like that, their little family grew. The vet said the kitten was only 6 weeks old, malnourished, scared, but otherwise healthy. Emma named her Hope, because that's what she felt. Hope that even in a world where so many walk past pain, some still stop, some still help, some still remember. Watching Buddy nuzzle Hope and let her curl up next to him on cold nights became Emma's favorite thing in the world. He'd gone from abandoned to protector, from almost giving up to giving others a reason to live, from forgotten to unforgettable. And then came the most unexpected moment of all. It was early spring. Emma came home from school, her backpack still slung over one shoulder, when her mom met her at the door, holding something behind her back. "What's that?" Emma asked. Her mom smiled and handed her a plain white envelope. Emma opened it slowly. Inside was a letter from a nearby therapy animal organization. They had heard about Buddy's journey, from alleyway to recovery, and wanted to invite him into their training program. If he passed, he could become a certified therapy dog, visiting hospitals, nursing homes, and schools to bring comfort to others who were hurting. Emma gasped. "You mean he could help people like me?" Her mom nodded. "Exactly like you." Buddy's therapy dog training started soon after. At first, it wasn't easy. Buddy had never been in such structured situations, and it took some time for him to trust again, especially with strangers. But just like everything else in his life, he adapted. Slowly, but surely, he began to understand. He learned how to greet people gently, how to sit and stay while others pet him. And with each passing session, it was clear he loved it. His tail wagged more, his eyes sparkled with life, and that bond he had formed with Emma, now stronger than ever, became the backbone of his training. Emma was by his side every step of the way, the two of them inseparable. And with every visit to the therapy facility, Emma saw something new in Buddy. He wasn't just a dog anymore. He was a healer. He was a lifeline. One day, during a special demonstration for new trainees, Emma and Buddy were paired with a group of children. These were kids who had gone through traumatic experiences, many of them carrying the weight of their pasts in silence. Some had been through abuse. Others had faced illness and loss. As Emma and Buddy entered the room, a hush fell over the group. The children were quiet, unsure at first. But Buddy was calm, patient. He slowly walked toward them, his eyes filled with nothing but understanding and warmth. One little boy, no older than 6, hesitantly extended his hand toward Buddy. His eyes were wide, his body stiff with fear. Buddy's ears perked up, and he sat down at the boy's feet, lowering his head gently, waiting. The boy stared for a long moment before reaching out to pet Buddy's soft fur. "I'm scared," the boy whispered. Buddy simply nuzzled him, as if saying, "It's okay. You're not alone." The boy smiled then, just a little, and Emma, watching from the side, felt something stir deep inside her chest. She realized that this moment wasn't just about Buddy healing. It was about connection, about reaching through pain, through walls built by fear, and finding the courage to touch something beautiful. The next few months passed in a blur of therapy sessions, visits to hospitals, and long drives to nursing homes. Everywhere they went, Buddy's impact was immediate. He didn't just bring comfort, he brought hope, love, and a reminder that life could be good again, even in the darkest times. One afternoon, after visiting an elderly woman who had been feeling isolated for months, Emma found herself sitting outside the building, Buddy at her feet. The sun was setting, and she was lost in thought. "How did we get here, Bud?" she whispered. Buddy, as if understanding, lifted his head and rested it on her lap. The climax was just around the corner. Emma and Buddy had spent so many months healing together, but it was about to reach a new peak, a moment that would forever change the course of their journey. It came one rainy afternoon, when the phone call no one had expected arrived. Emma's mom picked up the phone, and her expression immediately changed. Her voice, soft but shaking, made Emma's heart race. "Emma, it's about Buddy," her mom said. Emma shot up from the couch. "What happened?" Her mom's eyes welled with tears. "He's been selected to be a therapy dog for a major project at the children's hospital in town. They want him to help kids in the oncology ward." For a moment, Emma couldn't breathe. She looked at Buddy, who was resting by her feet. This was the moment. This was the chance they'd been working toward for months. Buddy had come full circle, from a broken, abandoned dog to a symbol of healing. The day of Buddy's first official visit to the children's hospital came too quickly, but neither Emma nor Buddy were nervous. It felt like the natural next step in their shared journey. After all, they had been through so much together, and now they had a chance to give back to those who needed healing. The hospital was bustling, but the room where Buddy would meet the kids was quiet, expectant. Emma walked beside him, his leash tight in her grip, but his body was relaxed, as if he knew this moment was important. He wasn't the same dog she had rescued from the alley. He was no longer lost and abandoned. Now he was a healer, a true friend, a companion, and a savior. They entered the room, and Emma felt a knot in her stomach. The children were lying in beds, some sitting up, others too weak to move. Their faces were pale, eyes tired, but there was something in the room, something that shifted the moment Buddy stepped inside. He walked up to the first child, a little girl, no older than 7. Her face was drawn with illness, and her eyes were hollow, as if she'd lost all hope. Buddy sat down in front of her, his tail wagging slightly. Slowly, he leaned forward, nudging her hand with his nose. The little girl's eyes flickered, a spark of something behind them. She reached out, timidly at first, and then, as her hand connected with Buddy's fur, her face softened. A tear slipped down her cheek, but it wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a tear of relief, a recognition that, maybe for the first time in a long while, something they couldn't find in medicine or doctors or machines, everything was going to be okay. The room was silent. Emma held her breath. One by one, Buddy moved from bed to bed, each child responding differently. Some smiled, some cried, but every single child felt something that had been missing. They found it in Buddy. Buddy wasn't just a dog. He was a lifeline. He was a connection to something better, something brighter. And in that moment, it was clear. Buddy had found his true purpose. But it wasn't just the kids who were changed. As Emma watched Buddy work, she felt the weight of her own past lift. The pain she had carried with her, the loss she had felt when her father passed away, the loneliness she had kept hidden. Somehow, with Buddy by her side, it all seemed less heavy. In the eyes of these children, she saw herself, and in Buddy's steady gaze, she saw the same love he had shown her, the same love that could heal wounds deeper than anyone could understand. By the time the visit ended, Emma was overwhelmed with emotion. She had witnessed something miraculous, a simple dog, once abandoned and forgotten, now changing lives in ways words couldn't describe. As they left the hospital, Emma's mom turned to her, her eyes full of pride. "You did it," she said softly. "You both did." Emma looked down at Buddy, who was happily trotting beside her, his tail wagging. "We didn't do it alone." As the days passed, Buddy's role at the hospital only grew. He continued to bring hope and joy to children who needed it the most. His presence became a beacon of light in a place filled with shadows. And Emma, she had found her calling too. Watching Buddy transform lives reminded her of the importance of compassion, of the healing power of love. She started volunteering more, working with the hospital to bring Buddy to other children, other families, who needed him just as much. But nothing could prepare her for the final lesson Buddy would teach her. One evening, as Emma and Buddy were on their usual walk through the park, something unexpected happened. Emma felt a strange tightness in her chest, something she couldn't explain. Buddy stopped and looked up at her, sensing something was wrong. She stumbled to the nearest bench, clutching her chest. Panic gripped her. Buddy was instantly by her side, nudging her gently, his eyes wide with concern. Emma gasped, her vision blurring. She tried to call for help, but her voice was weak. Her breath came in sharp, painful bursts. Then, just as everything started to go dark, she felt Buddy's nose against her hand, his soft, steady touch grounding her in a way she hadn't known she needed. She closed her eyes, knowing that Buddy would never leave her. No matter what happened next, Buddy was there, her protector, her companion, the miracle she never saw coming. But as the world around her started to blur into darkness, Emma heard something faint, a distant voice, her mother's voice, and then a flash of light. The last thing she remembered before everything went black was Buddy's face, filled with concern, nuzzling her hand as if to say, "Don't worry, I've got you." When Emma woke up, it wasn't to the sterile lights of a hospital room. It wasn't the sound of machines or doctors hovering over her. Instead, she was greeted by the soft hum of her own home, the comforting warmth of her bed, and most importantly, the weight of Buddy resting his head gently on her lap. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the light, and then she remembered. Buddy had saved her. It wasn't just a simple rescue. It wasn't just a dog looking out for his owner. In that moment, Buddy had become more than just a companion. He was a protector, a true lifesaver, and the love they shared, the bond they had formed over so many months of healing, had come full circle. Emma sat up slowly, and as she did, Buddy nuzzled her hand again, his tail thumping against the bed. His eyes were full of love, full of understanding. He had been there when she needed him the most, just as she had been there for him when he was at his lowest. Emma smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "You saved me, Buddy," she whispered, as if it was the simplest thing in the world. And in that moment, it felt like the truth. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Buddy continued their work at the children's hospital. But Emma never took another step in life without knowing how fragile it was, how quickly everything could change. Her relationship with Buddy had given her a new perspective, not just on life, but on what it truly meant to care, to love, and to give. Buddy, the dog who had once been abandoned, now had a life filled with meaning. And Emma, the girl who had rescued him, was now on a mission to pay that love forward, to spread the compassion and understanding that had been the foundation of their journey together. Their story was a testament to the transformative power of love. It wasn't just about saving a dog. It was about the healing that happened between two souls who had been broken, who had found each other in the darkness, and who had both come out stronger on the other side. Buddy wasn't just a therapy dog anymore. He was a miracle, a reminder that sometimes the smallest of hearts can carry the biggest love. And as for Emma, she would never forget the lessons Buddy had taught her. She would never forget the day she found him in that alley, the day he changed her life forever. And she would never forget that when she thought all hope was lost, it wasn't just a little girl who saved the world. It was a dog, too. Their story was far from over. It was only just beginning. If you've been touched by Buddy and Emma's journey, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs a little hope today. And don't forget to check out our next video for more incredible stories just like this one.